Howdy from Arlington, Texas, y'all. I hope this show finds you well. Joining me, not in Texas, is my longtime friend Jason, as you can see there. Jason on Twitter. And this is the first episode of our new show, podcast. I don't know, maybe put it on podcast form. Who knows? But anyway, we love the 80s cards. And that's what we're going to talk about on here. It's going to be baseball heavy. Jason's definitely
sure.
Bigger baseball guy than anything else. I'm baseball and football more so when it comes to 80s. There was an area of the 80s on basketball cards where there wasn't anything other than star, and I don't know enough about that, but you know what? Maybe we can bring some people on that know more about those other sports. As much as I love hockey, I didn't collect hockey in the 80s. I don't have a lot of knowledge of it, but Jason and I have friends. We got low friends in high places,
Definitely.
And maybe they know something. But hit about a week ago, this is kind of the genesis of what we're doing, that you've got the golden age of cardboard over on Bench Clear Media. Baseball collector Mike, he hosts that. And then a newer one that I found about a month ago was that 70s card show with John Keating. And I'm going to link to both of those channels below. But they cover a lot of years. Mike, he calls it the golden age cardboard, and I think he pretty much goes 40s, late 40s, 48s, roughly when cards started up again. They're getting a little heavier through I think he'll go through the 70s, but they definitely focus 50s, 60s. John obviously is that 70s card show, so he's very 70s card heavy. But I haven't seen anyone yet with an 80s focus. We know that, the 80s have been hot for a couple of years now, and I'm not even talking cards, just nostalgia. Guys roughly Jason's age and my age. We got kids, or my case, I'm an empty nester. So, a little more money than we had 20 years ago, although maybe not if you're a parent.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so here we are, the show that absolutely nobody asked for. So Jason and I used to do a couple podcasts together. If you're watching this on YouTube, which I guess that's the only place this is going right now. Jason, you don't have a channel. I know you have an account, but you don't post videos, so you guys may not know him. But Jason's been in the hobby for a long time. He and I have been friends for at least a decade, and I know we knew of each other before because we actually, we both were at that point in West Virginia, and there's not a whole lot of card collectors in West Virginia, so
you tend to a whole lot of people. So
yeah, you tend to know who you know. As I've said, that place is the card wasteland. There's just not a lot going on in that part of the country. But yeah, so we're gonna make another run. We've tried a couple podcasts in the past with different names, and we either just got burnt out or life got in the way. So what we've decided is we're gonna go bi-monthly. And by that, I don't mean every other month. I mean twice a month. We'll figure it out. We're not sure what day we're going to set it, any of that. But that way we don't get burnout, because we both had that. We had burnout before. We don't run out of topics too quickly. There, at a certain point, there's only so many topics. And there was something else I was going to say, but I don't even remember what it was now. But there was another reason we were going to do that. That's what I got. So game plan, we're just going to chat about 80s cards. Oh, that's what I was going to say. It's going to be like our old podcast. We didn't really have a format. We don't really have much of a, we do this, we do that every show. We just got on and talked about cards, recorded. If somebody wanted to listen, great. And that's kind of what we're going to do here. It's kind of what I do with Herman on Monday nights. We'll have a couple of topics. It's very loose. And for those that know me and know that I'm, I do the Monday night hobby chat with Herman on 3B Collection. I'm not going anywhere. This is, we didn't have a breakup or anything like that. And Jason is a co-host on another show. I'll let him go ahead and tell you about that right now.
So I am one of the 3 hosts of NASCAR Radio. It is me, Logan, who is also known as King NASCAR on Twitter, and then Val Mars, who is NASCAR Radio. We've done that for a couple of years. Logan joined probably over the summer. He, kind of came on when I was doing some life stuff and couldn't really be there as much, and then stuck around, and it's made a nice 3-person show. And we talk about not just NASCAR cards, but racing cards in general pretty much every week, unless something pops up. But pretty regular show, and it's it's on iTunes and all the podcast platforms, I guess you'd call it.
So, and then I would say that Logan has recently started making some YouTube videos. I think all he's done are chronicles of Blaster opening.
Seriously.
But I believe is his channel. Do you remember? It's either Logan Ward or it's King NASCAR. I can't remember.
Ooh,
have to remember to go look that up and put it in the notes. And then Jason, the podcast Jason's a part of, they post that on YouTube as well. I believe on Racing Card Info is the channel. I would need to go look, but I will.
Correct. He does post on YouTube as well. I forgot about that.
It's actually where I listen to you. Yep. That's where I listen to you guys every week. I don't listen to podcasts anymore. There's I don't listen to podcast forums anymore. I listen to Dr. Beckett on here. I listen to Mike Summer, Wax Pack Hero on here. Now they don't upload them every day. They upload them in groups, so I'm usually way behind.
Still,
and there's a couple.
Yeah,
there's a couple shows. Wax Museum podcast. I would love to see him get his shows on here, and then Stacking Slabs. Those are some other good podcasts. But yeah, I do all my podcast listening here, so that's where I listen to you guys. All right. What else? What else I got on this little list that I'm looking at right here? So, oh yeah, as I said earlier, we haven't 100% decided on a day. Don't really want to compete with other people too much. I don't want people to have to choose more than they have to watch live. But we are going to be recording this for the most part. Maybe once in a while we'll do something live, but this gives us the ability. Jason's got a family. He's got some youngsters. So, trying to lock into something is tough. Yep. It's tough. So, this will give us the ability to be a lot more flexible and help you out. And I'm sure at times it'll benefit me as well. And then hopefully you guys like what we see and do. I'm doing this on my channel. I'm not starting a whole new channel for this or anything, but hopefully you'll subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and then comment. And I think I'll mention it again later, but one of the comments we'd love to have on this one is, what are some ideas you have? What are some topics you'd like us to touch on? We've briefly chatted on some things, and there's, we've got the, favorite sets, top players, all those kind of things. But having 20, 25 people give us ideas is better than just the two of us, because there's going to be a lot that between the two of us we'll miss.
Yeah, and I think just starting out, if we can get some comments about what people would like, that would kind of lead us in a direction to where we're doing stuff that's desired and not the other way around, so definitely some comments on that. And then also I'll do one more is comments on our topic today, but I won't spoil it yet.
Well, so let's get into it. So basically you and I started collecting in the late 80s. I believe you told me you kind of started seriously in 88. I started in 87. I think you started a little younger than me, because I think you're more than a year younger than me. I think you're a handful of years younger than me. But we both have a love for that era. So what are your earliest moments of collecting, and kind of how you started out?
So yeah, I was born in 82, and I want to say the first cards I probably picked up were 87, 88 stuff. But the first memories that I have two specific memories. Were using the Beckett. The first one, using the Beckett to look up some cards that I had. Don't remember where I got them or anything like that. Looking up 89 Donruss values, 89 Donruss baseball, of course, values in the Beckett. Found this card of this unknown Mariners player, at least to me, and it was Ken Griffey Jr., and that card was worth a whopping $4, and that was like cloud nine to me, being 7 years old, and somebody told me something was worth $4. That's like, understanding money. Can I go somewhere and sell this for $4 to anybody? Or is this like going to go up? Or, so it's kind of funny looking back at the innocence of not really knowing and understanding money yet. And then my other memory is, I don't remember exactly how it happened, but looking through cards with a sucker or a lollipop, whatever you want to call it, and needing a place to put that sucker without the wrapper so it didn't get in the carpet. And I took an 89 score football card and put it on the back. And so that card is between the sucker and the carpet. And would you like to guess whose card that might have been from '89 Score Football?
I mean, I was gonna ask. I mean, I'm gonna go with knowing you, knowing your teams. I'm gonna go with Barry Sanders rookie.
It was absolutely a Barry Sanders rookie card that now had a
I've
sucker attached.
I've never heard
to
you
it.
tell that story. This is like real. Like I actually got that right. Just I'm sitting here going 89. I'm like, who are
Yep.
the rookie? Who did he sit it on? And then when I was like, well, he's a Lions fan as much as he's a
Yep.
fan of anybody NFL.
And then I think after the fact, I don't know exactly, but I have a broad memory of somehow after the fact I realized, oh crap, this card's 15, 20, 30 bucks or whatever it was at that point in time. And then I don't, I've been a Lions fan my entire life.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
It is what it is,
It's a rough life. I mean,
Yeah,
when I was an
so-
NFL fan, I was a Browns fan. So
Yeah,
I mean,
you understand. So I've been a Lions fan my entire life, and I'm assuming, I've kind of always assumed that's where it started. Was I unfortunately learned who Barry Sanders was because of my ignorance and my candy desires that day. So those are
never heard
my
that story in all
collecting
these years.
entry stories. Yeah.
So,
But actually, it's kind of funny. Ever since I've been a Griffey and a Lions fan, so I would imagine those are the reasons.
So, do you still have that card?
Oh no, it's long gone. No, long.
I figured. I mean, is that one of those ones like now you think about it as you said you're born in '82, so you're almost 40. Is a 40-year-old man? Is that one of those ones you wish you just still had that specific card, just because of the story?
Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt. I mean, just if I would put it in one of those Ultra Pro 250 count snap boxes, you know what I mean? Just so that sucker was still attached to it. But yeah, for sure. It's one of those nostalgia things.
Yeah, it's not like one of the Topps cards that has the gum stuck to it, but it's pretty darn close.
Different kind of candy stain.
Yeah, I love that. I did, like I said, I never knew that in all the times we've talked about stuff. So
kind of what got yours has to be football, though.
Do what now?
I would imagine your first entry into cards and '80s cards has to be football.
No, it wasn't. It was actually baseball, which is weird because I just have no interest in baseball.
Right.
A lot of choices. So then, those are your earliest memories. Do you have any recollection of maybe just the why? Why did you start collecting? How did you start collecting? Was there somebody involved?
It had to be my dad, because my dad talks about stuff that he had and sold over the years, and he remembers when prices for things were 1% of what they are now for some of these old Manals and stuff like that. And it has to be. I don't remember how it started. I would imagine he picked up a few packs here and there, and then I don't really remember purchasing packs on my own until the next year, which would obviously is 90.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. Maybe you don't have like a moment like I do, because my dad wasn't really a big sports fan. I mean, he'd watch Mountaineer football and basketball if it was on, but that was about it. He's never been a big sports fan. I think he was into it a little bit when he was younger. So for me, it was my uncle that got me into it, and I've been in a specific moment because my uncle lived in Alabama, which I was born in Birmingham, but I grew up in West Virginia. So for Christmas 1986, he gave me a hand collated 86 Topps set. And
now I remember. Yep.
So I remember that. I just remember how cool it was. I mean, I would have been 86. So I was 7 years old, right? 7 years old, 8 years old, 6 years old. I don't know, something. But yeah, it was just something different. And if you think about that design, the contrast of the top of the card with the black to the bottom of the border with the white, those bright colors that were inside of the black. Think of the red of the Reds and the yellow of the Pirates and the blue on the Mariners, A's green, just contrast. There was just something about it. And I think they popped too, because living a little bit more in the north, just, the world's a little bit more dark in late December than it is where I live in Texas now.
Yeah.
I mean, just because of the weather, just all those little things just went together. I still remember the binder that it was in. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but that's what got me started. And I don't know why I took to it, but I did. So I started collecting baseball cards the next year. I started playing baseball the next year.
Yeah, that seems odd to me because I don't know you as that aspect. So the way you talk about football versus baseball, that not like the unathletic part, don't take it that way, but just the way that you talk about things, the football is like seems like the one that you would have been more inclined to. So the baseball surprises me. And it also surprises me, and this is what I was going to say a minute ago, was 86 Tops is like widely regarded as one of the ugliest sets ever by a lot of people. And it's always nice to hear somebody like you that's like, hey, I don't care. This is my memory, my nostalgia. Like, this is my favorite. This is what started it. So I like it. I like when people stand up for their beliefs.
I mean, there was a long time that was one of the ugliest sets ever to me. And it's funny, I have already written down some topics for some future shows. And the very top one I have, and I never really thought about it about 86 Tops. I thought about a different one, but sets that you appreciate more now than you did as a kid. And, if you collected as a kid, now if you didn't start collecting until, the last 10 years, 80 set, that's not going to change. But for someone like us that has that perspective. But yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. It's an ugly set. I mean, who's the best rookie in that set? I mean, is that I think the Vince Coleman is a rookie. I think he had an 85 No, he was an 85 top. So yeah, there's like a couple of guys that maybe had a couple of all-star appearances.
Yeah, because I mean, it's the traded is the traded is the money. Not really now, but
Clark, Canseco.
Yep.
I'm missing a big one. Bonds was the big one for a while there.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's just the age I was. I wasn't as into cartoons afterwards. I wasn't as much into toys after that. Christmases were very baseball card heavy. My parents were always super supportive. I guess it's because I was pretty well behaved. So, it kind of kept me out of trouble and kept me out of their hair a lot of the times. In 1987, so the first year I collected fully, I remember, and the only reason I remember that my uncle got married in 1987 was because we went to Montgomery to go to the wedding, and to kind of keep me appeased and keep me quiet in the room, my mom bought me 2 boxes of 87 Donruss. And so all I did was open them and sort them and just all those things that you did as a kid back then. So I think that's a reason that she was always super supportive was, like I said, it kind of kept me out of trouble and maybe more importantly, out of their hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 86, like I said, I started playing baseball in 1987. That was when I was in 2nd grade. You say you thought maybe football more than the baseball, but let's just be honest. I was better at baseball. I was above average. I was I love this, and you might remember this. You remember above average Mike Sanders in WCW?
Oh my God, yeah.
I always loved that.
I love that, man.
Yeah. So anyway, I was slightly better than average. Maybe I made all stars a couple of times as a kid. Is really something when your parent isn't a coach. Let's just call it what it is.
My
parents a coach. You make an all-star team. Parents a coach. Usually, I must have been the last guy on the team. But yeah, made a couple of them.
So let me throw this out there, and I'm looking down because I'm looking at an iPad. I'm not ignoring you. So I went to the 86 set on Trading Card Database. I'm a little upset with you right now because
what I do.
There are rookie cards in 86. There are guys like Lynn Dykstra, which it's not breaking the bank. Let's not get crazy. Ozzie Guillen, Darren Dalton, like you said, guys that were on a couple All-Star teams, a couple World Series. Cecil Fielder, whatever. Number 457 in the set. Rookie card, Oakland Athletics.
Oh, yeah. Mickey Tettleton.
Yep.
Yeah. But again,
So
I mean, let's just call a spade though. For one,
forgettable.
he kind of is. I mean, but I was a fan of his when he went to Baltimore, so I even remember him as an A.
Okay.
So there might be something to that, but no, I mean, I do have that card, obviously. Yeah, Mickey Tettleton, but again, same guy. Probably made 2-3 All-Star teams.
Yep.
But all in all, hell of a nice guy. I mean, I met a Dallas show a couple years ago. An autograph, took a picture. Was a super nice guy. Yeah, like I said, one of the nicest athletes. Most of them are just like all business, get it done. But no, he was a super nice guy. Yeah, good call. I can see why you're disappointed. So, for those of you that don't know, yeah, I was a big Mickey Tettleton fan there, and I have a little bit of a Mickey Tettleton collection. It's kind of like you were talking about before the show with Lions. I don't necessarily go out searching for his stuff,
Yeah,
but
but
you've sent me a lot. You've sent a lot of stuff, and some other people send me stuff, so I definitely keep all that stuff. So, but yeah, so that's the kind of guys in '86. But I mean, that's kind of a good thing in a way because I no longer have that set because, I moved, that I moved from Morgantown to Pittsburgh to Indianapolis. Yep. Now I'm in Texas. So obviously I took a lot of my cards, but they were cards that I was doing stuff with or cards that were valuable that I might sell. So my 86 top set never left. And just a couple of weeks after I moved to Texas, my childhood home burned down.
Oh, I forgot all about that. Yeah, you're right.
That set was there along with my hand collated 87 tops, hand collated 87 Donruss sets. Those were all there. So I lost all of those, but I did go back and rebuild because I was able to find some boxes locally for like $15 for a box of 86 tops. Now that was pre-pandemic. Who knows? Those things are still become much more than 15 just because of what's in there. But I guess grading has changed the game. I mean, because those things were oftentimes horribly off center. They had those top black borders, which would get dinged easily. But so I do have a set. Oh, and I mentioned the binder that it was in. I actually went on eBay and I searched and searched and searched and waited and finally found the same binder that it was in. I found a guy, and it was actually funny because he was actually here in the Metroplex that had 7 of them. So I bought those, some were the 2-inch, some were the 3-inch, but so I actually have a handful of those big bond still with me. So that's kind of my genesis of how and why I got started. And in a lot of ways, I've not trying to get too deep here, but obviously, 3 men have really influenced who I am. My dad is one. My uncle is one because, you hear the podcast and people, oh yeah, well, I took a break I never took a break.
Mm-hmm.
I had some lean years, probably the early years when you and I knew each other. You just get started with adult life. I was in college.
Right.
At that time, I was still working retail in stores before I was promoted to a corporate level. But I don't know me not collecting. Things have changed. I collect so many different things over time, but I've always been a collector. And then the other guy is actually a neighbor. He was relative through marriage, but he was also a card collector. And in high school, I didn't have a lot of friends. Imagine that, me not having friends with my sunny disposition. But he was about 10 years older than me, and in a lot of ways was my best friend, and he was a card collector, and we kind of liked the same thing. And so yeah, he taught me some valuable life lessons. The one I always remember is he always told me, he's like, I let the wife pretty much get whatever she wants. She gets to pick everything out, because then when I really want something, I can go, but you got this and this and this and this, and this is all I want.
Interesting.
I never forgot that. And I have been married. Well, I've only been married 3 years, but we've been together 7 years and never fought. So my little truth that. All right, back to cards. So yeah, that's kind of our backstories on the collecting and all that. You over time have kind of collected a little bit of everything. I think, like me, we were talking before we went live that we both have too many projects. We go on kicks. Part of that is, did you ever take a break? I don't think you did.
So it's interesting. I took a break for 4 or 5 years, but I did not take a break from collecting. I've always been, my grandmother collected toys. So dolls, action figures, McDonald's toys, like toys. So I've always had cards and toys. And then, so I stopped cards for a couple years, but I was toys hardcore. Like I remember in high school, because wrestling was huge, but I was a toy collector and I had, say, 90% of whatever figures The Rock had out. And it was like my wall, they were thumbtacked everywhere. And you could see the wall paint as an outline of each figure, but like you couldn't see the wall. You know what I'm saying? It was like bricks. The figures were like the bricks, and then the paint on the wall was like the trim. So I was real hardcore into toys, and I still collect a lot of toys, but now I do both. So never stopped collecting, but cards did kind of go away. So my missing years are like 95 to 98, which is also high school. So, kind of goes together.
But you were still collecting, so yeah, it's shifted. It's
Oh,
funny
absolutely.
you say.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. It's funny the parallel. So you've never told me that before. We've never had maybe this part of the conversation.
That's true. Yeah.
So I was thinking there were a lot of lean years in the 90s for me, and I could never figure out why. Because I was very heavy into starting lineups.
Same.
So those things were $7, $8, $9. That was, heck, Fleer Metal the year that Bobby Thorough was a rookie, I think was like $3 a pack. So I could get 3 packs of that, or I could get one starting lineup. But it's funny. I have said in the past that, my wallpaper in my room was starting lineups. So same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pinned them in there. And that's pretty much what my wall was covered in. Did not have posters of cars and women.
Same.
Now I did have the Baywatch Pamela Anderson. I did have that poster right on my ceiling above my bed, but the walls didn't have all that stuff. It was all sports stuff. Maybe that's because, like I said, I wasn't super popular in high school, so didn't have a girlfriend in high school, so I didn't take the break for girls like some of the guys did. But so yeah, I remember where we're going with that. But anyway, so I guess let's get into the topic we do have.
Yep.
So we just kind of put this together. We're not thinking real hard on it. We'll revisit this in some level at some point. But I wanted to talk about what our 3 favorite sets of the 80s are. And again, we're talking all sports. Heck, I'm fine if we want to talk non-sports at some point. I don't have a lot of knowledge of it. But I know that within the last year, like on Sport Lots, I won an eBay auction of some He-Man cards that was like a partial set. I do want to put that together at some point, but obviously it's so far off. But yeah, so I know we had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards, all those kind of things that I just scoffed at then. But now, being that 40, I'm 42 years old, the nostalgia of it. So yeah, we could always go into that. So, but we just said 3 favorite sets regardless. So if we're going to rank them, what you say is your number 3 favorite set of the 80s. And it's just favorite, doesn't have anything to do with value, design, or any specific thing. Just kind of, what's your 3rd favorite set, would you say?
So works for me. I'm glad you're going backwards. And then my other suggestion is let's alternate. You do 3, I'll do 3.
I was going to do that.
We kind of threw this together on a whim for the first show, so we're going to go over notes during live. So no big deal. My number 3, and I think would be in most people's top 5. For me, this one is content-based, not design-based. Not really nostalgia-based because it's before my time. But it's one of those, like you said earlier, when you look back and you appreciate it, it's like a who's who for middle of the road 3-time All-Stars in their career or 1 championship ring for rookie cards of those guys. So my number 3 is 1985 Topps. And I know it gets the credit of McGuire's Olympic card, Clemens, Puckett. But for me, it's all the other guys. I'm looking at my list, so I apologize. It's the Corey Snyder rookie. It's the Pendleton rookie, Sean Dunston, Jose Rio. Like, those are guys that I grew up with. Eric Davis, Dwight Gooden, Mark Langston. Those are the guys that I would much rather collect. I was never take that back. I was a Griffey collector, but my next favorite was Bobby Bonilla. I was never the Trout, Fernando Tatis collector. That's not me. I want affordable over show off. Does that make sense?
Oh,
So
well,
especially
knowing who your super collection is and who you were in Beckett for, yeah, I mean, that
Right.
goes with it. Go ahead and
Right.
just tell everybody that doesn't know who your super collect, and you were in Beckett once for your collection.
Yep. So my super collection is Josh Fogg, pitched for the White Sox, Pirates, Rockies, Mets, Reds, and Philly spring training, I believe. Played from 2001, 2-ish to 2009. I'm sure 90% of the people listening have no clue who he is, but he's my guy. And if you have a card of him that I don't have, please contact me.
Although you probably don't have a card of his that he doesn't have, unless it's a one of one.
Correct.
But yeah, I figured I'd throw that because you and I are the same. My first guy I collected was Dale Murphy and then Will Clark, and yeah, they were superstars in their time. But then a lot of the guys I collected, also like Russ Davis, Mickey Tettleton.
Right.
So you and I we do have a lot of parallels. Even though we didn't technically grow up together, you'd think we were like best friends from, the time we were 5. But
yeah, and it's like what you said earlier. I would rather buy 10 cards that are $1 a piece than one card for $10. That's just me, and that's why these guys speak volumes to me. And then when I get to my number 2 set, it's kind of along the same lines. So, but
I think though, going off that, I think it's one of the things we talked about. I talk a lot about, I wish I was more focused. I admire the guys that come into the hobby now that are very focused on who or what they collect. Take JT with Miguel Cabrera. I mean, granted, he's been in the hobby. He's been in the hobby a long time, but there are a lot of guys that are, Mike O is very Philly, Philadelphia Phillies. But we grew up, we never stopped collecting. When we were kids, you wanted as much as you could get. And I think that has a little bit to do, like, we've just not adapted maybe the way that a lot of other people have. So that's what I got to say about that. Yeah, it's one of those maybe slight negatives about having collected for 35 years and, never stopped. So my top 3 they're probably interchangeable and could change at any point. I'm going to go with number 3 right now being 1987 Donruss. So obviously that means baseball since it's Donruss.
Yeah, so going back, we didn't specify sports. I just coincidentally all picked the same. We didn't specify, so this is kind of all over the map, but go ahead.
Yeah, so mine is 87 Donruss. If this was the Beck that would be down from number 2 as of probably 2 months ago. Or down one spot, down from number 2 to number 3. So I mentioned earlier, my mom bought me like 2 boxes to go to Alabama just to keep me amused. So I know you grew up in the same area as me. You didn't really grow up in Morgantown, but there was a wholesaler who I am having a brain fart on what the name was, but they were over in Westover, basically Granville. And I think it later became a post office or something. But anyway, it was like a whatever I said it was, a wholesaler. And she would go like once a month on payday and buy me a box at $87. And that was pretty much the only place you could find $87 in Morgantown. You couldn't find 87 Fleer at all that I know of. That was the only place you could buy $87.
Yeah,
so I think part of the reason I've always had an affinity for black border sets, also 71 Topps baseball, is because the first year I collected was the 87 Donruss. And all 3 of mine are pure nostalgia. There's no other reason for that. Granted, 87 was a pretty solid rookie class, all things considered. And you got Bonds, Larkin, Clark, hell, wasn't Bonilla an 87 rookie, or was he? Yeah, Bonilla was an 87 rookie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why I picked that. So I had boxes and boxes of that, the box bottom cards. So no other reason than nostalgia. I don't necessarily have the all the thoughts that you have on, yours. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, just for pure nostalgia, 87 Donruss. I told you I lost that set. I've got 2 boxes sitting on my unopened wax shelf that, makes your eyes get really big every time I show a picture.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that thing together. But for now, I got a couple boxes of it. That is my number 3.
All right. So going on to number 2. This one is kind of the same reason, but a little bit more. My number 2 is 87 Fleer. And it's the same in the sense of there's all those mid-card guys, and I'm using that wrestling term, but there's all those mid-card guys, Kevin Mitchell, Chuck Finley, Draybeck, Ruben Sierra, Larkin, Will Clark, Bo Jackson, Bobby Bonilla, all those guys. But there's also that Bonds card, But for me, 87 Fleer for so long, because when I got back into collecting was right around 2000. And of course, that's McGwire, Sosa, Barry Bonds era. That's when they're killing it. Card values are through the roof. I looked at a Beckett the other day from that time period, and the 85 Topps McGwire was listed at $250. And it's like, holy crap, like I forgot it went that high. But that's how the Bond stuff was. And for so long, 87 Fleer was that impossible set. It was that thing. I'm not going to have the money to afford this Bonds or this, put it together. So it was always that impossible set, and I still don't have it. It just kind of went by the wayside. But I do have the Bonds. I have my visual example here. This is the Bonds that we're talking about. That blue design. That's really what got me, as I love the blue. But for so long, that Bonds was just out of my price range. And now it's come back down. Obviously, I have one. I just showed it. But that was my, 48 Bowman or, my Gaudy, for so long, just because it was I don't like to spend a ton of money on stuff like this because it's I just have it sitting here doing nothing. I don't want to pay $100 for a card. And that's kind of where it was at that point when I kind of got the fever for it, 2002, 2001, when he's killing it. So for me, it's the rookie crop, the design, but also just that nostalgia of, hey, I did something I thought I would never do.
It's funny the parallels we draw that we don't think about it. I mentioned 87 Donruss, and I finished black order. Something I've talked about, even though I haven't really collected hockey in a couple of years, probably about 3 or 4 years. I love how Upper Deck has done a lot of that electric blue with the Young Guns and some of the different things. Or I'm sorry, not electric blue, like an ice blue.
Yep.
And what 1987 card set is very similar to that, and it's the 87 Fleer.
Yep.
So, I can definitely. It's interesting that we just sit here and talk, and you just think about the way our brains work, and is it because of this? So my number 2 is maybe the most loved set of the 1980s, and also probably the most hated set of the 1980s.
Yep.
And it's the third 1987 baseball set in a row. It's 1987 Topps baseball. I get why everybody hates it. I do. Topps is, shoved it down your throat whether you like it or not. But you know what? A lot of people like it. It's kind of like Nickelback. Everybody says they hate Nickelback, but boy, they sell a lot of albums.
That's true.
For a band that not one person has ever admitted they like. They sell a lot of albums. But again, nostalgia. I said that I started playing baseball in 1987. At both fields that I played at, the concession stands, you could get baseball cards from the concession stand for 35 cents a pack.
Yep.
What cards were they? They were Topps. They weren't Donruss. They weren't Fleer.
The cheaper
Topps. Yep. Yeah. Well, the cheaper, and also, as we've talked, Topps losing out in baseball, just the standard bearer, basically.
True. Yeah.
Even more so at that point than now. But yeah, those were the those were the cards. So yes, I remember getting those after a game. Getting my mom buying me 2 packs after a game when I got my free soda after the game, and I would get 2 or 3 packs, probably 3 packs because they were probably like 35 cents or 3 for $1 or something. I had a lot of 87 donors. I had a lot of 87 tops. It was probably close to 50-50. We would get tops throughout the year. I would get a few packs at a time, but I would get would get the wax bot of them. So, for me, it is what it is. Love it. You love it. You hate it. You'll never forget it. That was a wrestler too. Who was that? You love me? That was DDP. You love me.
Oh,
you
yeah,
hate me.
you're right.
You'll never forget me. All right. So
before
what's
we
your
go to
number one?
Well, hold on. Going back to your 87 tops. Here's my argument. Yes, it's a love-hate. I know there's not really many people that would be like, it's okay. It's like, love that, hate it, totally agree with you. But here's the thing. If you would put an 81, an 82, and an 83 Fleer card down and tell somebody to pick out the 82, I would think 50% of them would automatically get it wrong because there's nothing significant about it. But if you would
I'd have to think about it for a minute. I wouldn't instantly be able to go, oh, it's that one.
But if you put an 86, 87, 88 tops in front of somebody and said, tell me the 87, guarantee you at least 8 of 10 people will be like, that one, the wood. Like, it is so known whether or not you like it, it doesn't matter. You remember it, you know it. And it's like advertising. It's the Budweiser commercial. It's that you like it when it's there, but when it's 20 years old, you're like, oh, that was a pain in my butt. It's that thing of, but you still remember it, So,
all right. And I wanted to say one thing about your 87 or your 85 tops.
Yep.
One of the things I really loved about that set, again, a couple years before I started collecting, but there are a couple of teams that just have fantastic color schemes. I loved that Phillies with that maroon and gray.
Oh, yeah.
And there's another one. I think it's the twin because they use royal blue and then a red.
Mm-hmm.
Looks real sharp together. But that Phillies one always stood out to me. Even as a kid, I didn't know who any of those players were because I probably didn't have the Mike Schmidt card. But I just remember loving the look of that particular one. And like I said, I know there's another team I'm forgetting, but just that color scheme of that particular card was just fantastic. All right. I will return the floor to you.
Okay. So my number one, and I don't think it's not a tough one. Everybody knows we talked about when I started collecting, what I liked. I'm baseball through and through. My number one is 89 Upper Deck. And it's that thing. I'll show you the card that I pulled out as the example. I pulled out the Randy Johnson. That's the one that I have. I love the Expos colors on there, which is coincidence. But there's a few rookies in this. Everybody knows the Griffey, the Randy Johnson, the Sheffield. There's other guys. Dante Bichette, Chris Sabo, Craig Biggio. And if you get into the high series, it has a couple of my guys that I grew up with and still collect to this day. Todd Zeal, Jim Abbott, Hensley Mullins. Like, I actually collect Hensley Mullins cards. Tom Gordon, Omar Vizquel. So just my guys that I like, I look back on fondly. But for me, it's the border. Like, I love that white border. I love when you can tell with good eyes, of course, you can tell if it's centered right away. Like, I just have always loved that. I love the white cards. I was a huge fan of Topps when they did it in the mid 2000s, like 04, 05, 08. Like, when you can instantly tell that it's centered or not centered for some reason, that's like my neat freak OCD stuff. I freaking love it, man. And it doesn't hurt that it's the Griffey card. It's Randy Johnson, guys that I idolize, being a huge Mariners fan in the 90s, like, everybody else. But I mean, to me, it's as simple. It's just I love the borders.
I love the one thing that I think took me the most was the card stock. Obviously, was different than anything else we're
Yes.
used to.
Yep.
Score was somewhat similar. It used to get a little different than in '88. It provided something different than Topps, Fleer, and Donruss was a little thinner in '89, a little lighter card stock. But what I really loved about the '89 was how they incorporated part of the game of baseball in that base path up the side.
Yep. I'll pull
That's
it up.
what I remember. That's what I remember catching me.
So you can kind of
From
see it
then.
right there on the side.
It
The
was just
baseline.
it was just different. They
Yep.
incorporate a design into their design, so to speak. Something from baseball, and that's what I remember. And that, and of course, the holograms. I mean, don't get me wrong, holograms were, '89. I was years old, so I mean, yeah, holograms were just the coolest thing ever. These are in baseball cards. This is what baseball cards look like.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I had any of them, because my mom, as supportive as she was not paying $1 for a pack of cards,
I
because that
want to
was
say
ridiculous.
I don't remember personally buying these is in '89. I remember buying them in say like '90 for like $4 or $5 a pack, but not during that year. I want to say I got the Griffey card. I know I got it as a Christmas gift, but I want to say I got it before I ever actually bought a pack, because like when you're talking about 87 Donruss, 87 Fleer, they were hard to find. Well, so was 89 Upper Deck. Like that was the hot thing at that point in time.
It's funny you kind of answered the question I was going to ask, was when did you finally have that Griffey? Because for me, as iconic as it was all the way through the '90s, I don't think I got my copy until 2001 or 2002. I won a 2-card lot on eBay, and I still have one of them. I sold one of them off. But yeah, I was going to ask you, did you have that as a kid, or did you not have it until you were older? Because for me, it was that '86 Canseco was the one
Right.
y'all, as much as the Griffey early on, the Canseco, because it was $100 card in per back.
Yeah. Right.
And I didn't actually get the Canseco until probably 5 years ago. I bought a graded copy, because I know those things so in the day that I just bought a PSA graded copy, because I mean it's a Canseco rookie. It wasn't a ton to buy that then. So yeah, it's good. It's interesting to know that you did have that as a kid. You said you had it before you had the packs.
I don't remember having single cards of it of the '89 Upper Deck laying around. So there was one Christmas, like my parents would all, as we do for my nephews, but like your parents tell your aunt and uncle what to get you kind of thing for Christmas. My aunt and uncle at that time got me, it was either the Christmas of '89 or '90, got me both the Griffey rookie card and the David Robinson '89 Hoops rookie card where he's holding the jersey. And I remember getting the Griffey, and it was in the screw down that was like a 1-inch thick, like those bad boys, because it was like the holy grail for an 7 or 8 year old kid back then.
Absolutely.
So I just don't remember having packs of these opened or anything like that. I remember getting that card though. So
very nice. Yeah, it was very cool that you had that. When I was a kid, the big one that I had was the Henderson Rookie, but my parents bought that for me probably when I was 9 years old, so it would probably grade a PSA 1. But I still have that. I still have that card. I still have that card, and you know what? I don't need a better grade copy, because it's not going to be the same. And I think we've talked about this before, but my mom, she bought it off of, remember Bob Bailey?
Yeah, the corner store. Yeah.
The corner store over by MHS, and then he was a card guy. Yeah, that's who she bought it off of. I thought we'd had that conversation before, that you knew who he was. Yeah, that's who she got it off of. I mean, I've had that thing for, whatever year they got it for me, probably Christmas '88, '89, and I've had that card ever since. And like I said, I don't even want another one. I don't need it.
Yep,
because I had it as a kid. Do you still have that Griffey?
I unfortunately do not. When we opened the store in 2002, it was like, I'm going to put everything I can into the store. And that was one of the cards that I put for sale at that point. I don't remember if it sold when the store was open or not. But I know I don't have it.
Gotcha. I mean, I have so few of the cards left from when I was a kid. I mean, I only know of like I have that Henderson, I have the 89 Ripken F face that I pulled from a pack at a card show at the Ramada Inn. And
which is now closed, by the way.
Yes, I did see that, and somebody was trying. Yeah, I read up on that a while back. But yeah, so anyway, all right, we got off topic as we will do, and that's going back to what we said earlier. We're not going to have a bunch of bullet points necessarily because we're just a couple guys on here that like to BS. Anything else you want to say on your number one before I go to number one?
Nope, I don't think so. I mean, it's not anything to me, but that was also the first foil pack. So that was a big deal for a lot of people. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong or if you've ever heard this before, I think that was the first pack that was universally $1, like pretty much everywhere that you would go to buy it.
At least $1. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, during its year of release. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say Score was a little higher in '88 than the other ones. I want to say it was like 50 cents or 60 cents. Like I think it had gone because again, full color, both sides was completely something different we had seen before. But yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned the foil packs because I did a video recently. I can't remember what I did. Oh, it must have been I posted it last week. It was my winnings from 90s b-ball cards, and I mentioned foil packs. He gave me a bunch of packs I'm going to open on my channel later on. And one of them was foil, and I mentioned how much I love those. And then one of the guys that watches my channel, he mentioned the same thing. And just there was just something really cool about those foil, and I
much
that. I would love. Yeah, I love the sound they make. Just everything about them, and how when you do rip, they just rip so easily like butter.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting a little too excited about foil packs. But anyway, my number one, and this is definitely number one more recently, within the last couple months. Before that, it would have probably been 87 Topps Baseball, and then 87 Donruss. But I have gotten into, and I've mentioned this on my channel. If you're a regular sub and you watch my videos, I've really gotten on an NFL films and more of a vintage football kick. And while I don't consider this vintage so much, yeah, we talked about, I don't really collect modern baseball. I have some, but I don't really collect. I just don't care about the modern game. It's boring to me. Same thing with modern NFL. Not only is the game boring, but they're doing other things that personally turn me off. But I've gotten more into the old football, and I love football as a kid. So, sticking with a theme, my number one set, 1987 Topps football. So I am now trying to. I've gotten back into TTMs, so I'm going to be TTMing a lot of those guys. You don't know me anymore, Jason. Bunch of PSA graded copies. I'm going to start passively working on that set in graded form. And it's not for any reason. I'm not going to get the number one graded set. I'm not going to get any of that because there's too many people out there that already have like almost everything in a PSA 10. It's just for me. It's not for anybody else. Yeah. And I mean, and it's not going to be like this on every team, but in the case of the Oilers, who I was a fan of, how nice with that design and that Oiler outline, and does that look in a PSA slab?
Right.
So it's all for me. I'm doing since collector grade for an 80s card is considered an 8. I want everything will be an 8 or better. And honestly, on the 8s, I'm only going to pick up 8s if they're like a really good price. I'd rather stick around 9s and 10s because when you look at a lot of these, at least the handful I've looked at on the Pop Report, almost everything that's graded is a 9 or a 10, an 8, 9, or 10. Because who's going to submit anything that's going to be less than an 8, 9, 10? It's pretty obvious cards like this if it's not very clean. But yeah, so I want to get as many of those as I can signed. I want to just put a set together. I actually bought a lot today. I had been looking and found a lot of something like 500 of the cards. and I had a lot of them, and they're clean. And I have been buying some of them from Sport Lots to TTM, and people are saying they're near mint, and they're coming in far from near mint. I've gotten them with printer lines, chips, and I'm not necessarily a condition freak. And I've been taking for what it's worth with lots, but the 87s have been some of the worst. Like, people are just saying they're near mint. They're not even close to near mint. Near mint is still an almost perfect card.
Right.
So, but these, you could tell from his pictures, these were like from a freshly opened box or from a vending box or something. So there's going to be a lot of off center, but they're pretty clean. But that's my number one set, and that's nostalgia, because it's kind of like MVP voting. If you have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout out for years, they're going to split votes for the MVP. Well, 1987 Topps Baseball and 1987 Donruss are kind of splitting the vote. There's no other 87 Topps set. So for me, I talked about you couldn't find 87. You couldn't find 87 Fleer at all. 87 Donruss, really just that one place that I can recall. 87 Topps was everywhere. I mean, just kind of like it is now. It's kind of like a cockroach. It's everywhere. Now, were you living in the area that I grew up in 87?
Yeah, I mean, my mom did and still does work at the hospital. So, I mean,
Okay.
we were, it's not exact, but like a town over, you know what I mean? Kind of 15 minutes away or something like that. But down there, like in Morgantown regularly, it was not an odd thing to be there.
I knew at some point you lived in the county south, so that's why I wasn't sure exactly where you were. So the only place you could find these, you wouldn't have any recollection of where you could find these. I'm sure I could have found them at Bailey's.
Football, no, not at all.
I'm sure I could have found them at card shows, but yeah, that's what you would have been too young to remember. The only place I remember ever seeing these, but I got packs of them, and I didn't get a ton, but I got enough because I had all the baseball cards at that point because it was the fall of 87. Yeah. I didn't need more Topps and Donruss. Was in the old mall, is, if you're from my hometown, is the Mountaineer Mall. The toy store. We didn't have a K. We had Circus World was the name of the store.
I do not remember that one.
I only came up with that about a week or two on my own. I finally figured out. I had been racking my brain for a while trying to figure it out. It was, and I thought it was Toy Circus, and I looked it up, and it was Circus World. But anyway, so I remember that store. It was down on the, if you were walking toward where the old Walmart was there, it was almost to the Walmart, maybe 2 or 3 stores, and it would have been on your left. Everybody else.
Like that sounds familiar, but not the name.
But it was Circus World is what it was. Huh. Yeah, because the KB opened. I think KB bought them out. And then,
that makes sense, yeah.
And then KB was in the new mall for as long as I can remember. But anyway, so again, it kind of gives me the memories of that old toy store. That was the only real toy store. The town I grew up in, when I grew up there in Morgantown, and Jason knows this, when I was a kid, we didn't have a Walmart. We didn't have a Walmart until the mid-90s. Yeah. We didn't have a Kmart until that. We didn't have a Kmart until the new mall opened in 91. It was one of the anchors. We had Hills, we had Ames, but we didn't have any other toy stores. So, now it's got 2 Walmarts, a Target, and just about everything else you want.
And too many people, yeah.
But anyway, so that's... So
sorry,
all that
I was going to say,
why,
for me, it was Hills and Revco.
Revco, Rite Aid. Yeah, there was Revco, Rite Aid. I got a lot of cards at the Thrift Drug at the old mall.
Oh, yeah, that one too, yeah.
They had a lot of cards. Anyway, so that's why this is my number one. It's all nostalgia. My channel I feel like, is becoming all nostalgia and more vintage. So if you like that, watch it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hopefully sub to my channel. Jason, I said we wanted to keep it under an hour. We're at 59:23, so we have failed because this will about wrap up our first episode. But go ahead and again, you don't make videos on YouTube, but go ahead and give out any social media that you want to give out.
You can see it on the screen. I try to keep it Jason Dean Martin pretty much everywhere. So if there's not a ton of activity, but I'm there. I'm looking. I'm watching from outside the window, kind of thing.
Creeper.
Hopefully some videos are coming soon. That's kind of my goal.
Oh,
but
am I subscribed to your channel? I guess if you got a channel, I need to subscribe.
It won't be this name. So when that's live, I'll inform everybody. But right now, everything's Jason Dean Martin. So
if you tag him on Twitter, you send him a message. Yeah, he's usually really good. But yeah, he's a creeper. So
sure.
Kind of like Jason, though, most places for me, I'm Blog. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm trying to post a little more on Instagram. Obviously, here you're watching the channel, you know what I am. Twitter, I'm just Beans B Card Blog because it wouldn't let me get the last 3 letters in there. So that's what I got. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Please like, comment, subscribe, comment with some ideas of things you'd like us to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's a good chance. Look, we didn't put like months of thought into this. I texted you about this like a week or 2 ago,
something like that. Yeah, yep.
About starting this, so there's plenty we haven't thought. So would love to hear what y'all have to say. So my social media. If you follow my channel, you kind of know what my outro is, and I'm changing it up just a little. So it's going to be smart, be safe, be kind to animals, and have your pet spayed or neutered. That's what I got. Thanks for watching. We'll see you down the road.